Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive? This time we're tackling the book of Proverbs.
Proverbs, a book that's, well, pretty much what it says on the tin.
Exactly. It's a collection of wise sayings, advice, guidance, you name it. But don't let that fool you.
Oh, absolutely not. It's not just some dusty old rule book.
Right. We're talking about timeless wisdom here, folks. And while it's attributed mainly to King Solomon,
You also have contributions from other wise figures sprinkled throughout, a real tapestry of perspectives on, well, wisdom.
and speaking of those different perspectives, where do you think we should start?
Well, those opening chapters, Proverbs 1 through 9, they really lay the groundwork, don't they? It's like the foundation of the whole book.
Totally agree. It's all about setting the stage, right? And the core idea that kicks things off.
The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge.
There it is.
Yeah.
But hold on, let's unpack that a bit, because fear can be a loaded word.
You got it. We're not talking about trembling terror here. It's more about reverence, respect.
Recognizing a higher authority, maybe, and understanding that our choices have consequences.
That's it. It's that awareness that sets us on the path to wisdom. And, it's fascinating how Proverbs uses these vivid personifications.
You mean wisdom and folly?
Yeah, it's not just abstract concepts. They're almost like characters battling it out for our attention.
Like wisdom's out there in the streets, calling out, urging folks to choose her way.
While folly is lurking in the shadows, all seductive and tempting, but ultimately leading to ruin.
Oh man, those metaphors, they really stick with you. Like folly's charms are like honey that turns bitter.
Or a sword that cuts both ways.
Ouch. Bad choices, lasting consequences. Proverbs doesn't mince words.
Nope, it lays it all out there. And then, as we move into chapters 10 through 29, the style shifts a bit, doesn't it?
We get this collection of individual proverbs, almost like a mosaic of wisdom, covering, well, practically everything.
You said it. Relationships, work, wealth, speech, you name it. A real smorgasbord of life lessons.
It can be a bit overwhelming, to be honest, but in a good way. So many nuggets of truth packed into these short verses.
And that's the beauty of it. Each one invites you to pause, reflect, apply it to your own life.
Like that one about the righteous flourishing like a tree, while the wicked are like a lamp snuffed out. Such a powerful image.
Isn't it? Our choices, they have ripple effects, not just on us, but on everyone around us.
And then there's that constant emphasis on controlling our speech. Proverbs is full of warnings about the power of words.
For good or for bad, remember, death and life are in the power of the tongue.
Whoa, yeah, that one hits hard. Makes you really think before you speak. It's not just about avoiding gossip, right? It's about speaking truth, offering encouragement, building people up with our words.
Absolutely. Proverbs ties speech to character, Integrity matters.
So in a way, it's like a guide to ethical communication. Don't flatter, don't deceive, be honest in your dealings. It's all connected.
Exactly. And speaking of honesty, Proverbs doesn't shy away from the complexities of wealth and poverty either.
True. It warns against greed, the pursuit of riches at the expense of others, but it also acknowledges hard work, being wise with your resources.
Right. It's not about demonizing wealth itself, but about your attitude towards it.
Like that one about ill-gotten gains being like a fleeting mist. Poof, gone. True prosperity, Proverbs says, comes from righteousness and integrity.
Material things, they fade. But a good name, a clear conscience, those are priceless. And hey, speaking of different perspectives, the next section throws us a bit of a curveball, doesn't it?
You mean chapters 30 and 31, things get a bit more, well, philosophical there.
For sure. We meet Agur, a guy who's clearly been wrestling with some big questions.
Listing those things too wonderful for him to grasp, and those things that are never satisfied makes you think, huh?
It really does. And it's refreshing, right? He's humble, admits he doesn't have all the answers, but he's still seeking, still searching for truth.
And then we have King Lemuel sharing his mother's wisdom, particularly about avoiding certain temptations. Some good advice there. And then, of course, there's that iconic passage about the worthy woman in Proverbs 31.
Ah, yes. Strong, capable, compassionate, wise. A timeless portrait, although.
Yeah, it has sparked some debate over the years, hasn't it? Especially about how it's been interpreted.
Absolutely. Context is key. We got to remember the historical and cultural setting. But even today, it's worth reflecting on, right? Thinking about the values it highlights. the timeless qualities it embodies.
Absolutely. And it reminds us that these proverbs, they can be interpreted in different ways. It's up to us to engage with them critically, thoughtfully.
To wrestle with them, to find our own meaning.
Exactly. And that's what makes this book so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's not just a set of rules. It's an invitation to a lifelong conversation about wisdom, about living a good life.
It really is a journey, isn't it? And Proverbs, well, it's like this ancient map, right? Guiding us through all the twists and turns.
But how do we actually take those ancient sayings and apply them to our lives today? I mean, things have changed a bit since King Solomon's time, haven't they?
Well, that's the challenge, isn't it? It's not just about reading these proverbs, it's about internalizing them, letting them really sink in and shape how we think, how we act.
So finding those nuggets that resonate with us.
Yeah,
And then actually, putting them into practice.
exactly. Each proverb is like, well, I guess you could say like a seed.
A seed.
Yeah, waiting to be planted
Yeah.
in the fertile soil of our, our hearts and minds.
Okay, I like that. So it's up to us to actually nurture those seeds, right? To help them grow.
You got it. We got to water them, give them sunlight, and that takes reflection and action.
So true. And one thing that struck me, especially as we were going through those earlier chapters, is how Proverbs doesn't sugarcoat things. It acknowledges that life is tough.
Oh, yeah. It's real about that. We all face adversity, even the righteous stumble. But it's about getting back up, right?
Resilience.
Exactly. That grit, that ability to pick yourself up and keep going.
And that's not just about external challenges, right?
Right.
It's also about those internal battles we all face, those negative thoughts, those temptations.
Proverbs has a lot to say about controlling our emotions, especially anger.
Oh yeah, a gentle answer turns away wrath. Classic.
It is, isn't it? It reminds us that our words, our actions, they can either escalate a situation or de-escalate it.
Take a deep breath.
Huh.
Count to 10.
Exactly. And speaking of things we should probably avoid, Proverbs doesn't hold back on the dangers of, well, overindulging, especially when it comes to alcohol.
Yeah, those verses paint a pretty vivid picture of the consequences, don't they? Who has woe? Who has sorrow? Who has strife?
And the answer? Those who linger over wine. It's a timeless warning, about the destructive nature of excess. And that goes beyond just physical health.
Right. It's also about our relationships, our choices. Like the warnings against adultery, the emphasis on fidelity and commitment in marriage.
It highlights how devastating infidelity can be, not just for the individuals involved, but for families, for communities. And on the topic of relationships, Proverbs offers this beautiful definition of true friendship. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity.
That's a good one. True friends, they stick by you through thick and thin. They're there to support you, to celebrate with you, to offer a shoulder to cry on. And that makes me think about another important theme in Proverbs, the importance of seeking wise counsel.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Where there is no counsel, plans fail.
Yeah.
We need those people in our lives, right? The ones who can offer different perspectives, challenge our assumptions.
And it's not just about getting advice, it's about actually being humble enough to listen, to learn from others. And this ties into another thread that runs throughout Proverbs, honesty and integrity.
Yes. It's constantly warning against deceit, dishonesty. It emphasizes how corrosive those things are, how they eat away at our character, at our relationships.
He who conceals his sins does not prosper, but whoever confesses and renounces them finds mercy.
Wow. Powerful stuff. It is. It's about being authentic, being transparent, even when it's tough.
Speaking of tough things, Proverbs doesn't shy away from the challenges of parenting, does it?
Nope. It's real about that too. It emphasizes how crucial parents are in shaping their children's character. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it.
That one's been debated and discussed for, well, probably centuries. But the core idea is there, right? Parenting is about more than just providing for physical needs. It's about instilling values, setting a good example.
Absolutely. And one of those values that Proverbs consistently highlights is generosity.
Generosity.
Yeah, and it's not just about giving money. It's about being generous with our time, our resources, our compassion.
The liberal soul shall be made fat, and he that watereth shall be watered also himself. I love that one.
It's beautiful, isn't it? It reminds us that generosity is reciprocal. When we give to others, we often receive blessings in return.
What goes around comes around. But I think one of the most powerful takeaways from Proverbs, maybe the thread that ties everything together, is this emphasis on trust. Trusting in something bigger than ourselves.
Absolutely. Throughout the book, we see this reminder that our lives are ultimately not in our control.
Commit your work to the Lord and your plans will be established.
There it is. It's a call to surrender, to let go of that need to control everything and have faith that, in the end, things will work out.
And, that's something that resonates with people from all walks of life, regardless of their specific religious beliefs.
It speaks to that universal human need for hope, for reassurance, especially when we're facing uncertainty. It's a powerful message, isn't it? And that brings us back to the heart of Proverbs, really.
It's not just about knowledge, right? It's about wisdom. It's about living a life of integrity, a life of compassion.
It's about making choices that lead to, well, flourishing, not just for ourselves, but for those around us.
And recognizing that true wisdom. It's a journey, a lifelong pursuit. It's about learning, growing, transforming.
It really is. In Proverbs, it's like this ancient guidebook,
Yeah.
offering us signposts along the way.
But the real challenge, I think, is figuring out how to take these ancient sayings and make them relevant to our lives today.
Yeah, that's the key, isn't it? It's not enough to just read these Proverbs. We need to let them sink in, let them shape us.
So finding those nuggets of wisdom that speak to us personally, and then figuring out how to actually, live them out.
Exactly. Each proverb is like, well, it's like a seed waiting to be planted.
There's that seed analogy again.
That's a good one, right? It's waiting to be planted in the fertile ground of our hearts, our minds. But it's up to us to nurture it, to help it grow.
So true. We got to tend to that garden, give those seeds sunlight, water, all the good stuff.
And that takes effort, It takes reflection. It takes action.
Speaking of reflection, as we wrap up our deep dive into Proverbs, is there a particular proverb that you find yourself coming back to? One that's really resonated with you?
Ooh, that's a tough one. There are so many that have spoken to me over the years. But if I had to choose just one, I think it would be Proverbs 16.3. Commit your work to the Lord and your plans will be established.
That's a beautiful one.
It is, isn't it? And
Right.
it's a constant reminder for me, to let go of that need to control everything, to trust that there's something bigger at work.
To surrender and have faith.
Exactly. It brings a sense of peace, of clarity.
And that really gets to the heart of what Proverbs is all about, doesn't it? Seeking wisdom, living with integrity, and trusting in something beyond ourselves.
You got it. And as you continue on your own journey with Proverbs, remember that its wisdom is always there, waiting to be discovered, waiting to be embraced.
So as we leave our listeners today, we'll leave you with a question to ponder. If you could choose one proverb to guide your life, which one would it be?
Think about it. Let those ancient words of wisdom illuminate your path.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.